exactly is official condolences?
It's a condolences on behalf of the United States government.
I'm not even sure why you're offering condolences if this guy was as bad as you say he was.
Look,
why? I mean,
because we regret any loss of life.
Aren't you sending contradictory messages?
Absolutely not.
We didn't hear this kind of statement when Yevgeny Prigozhin famously died in a plane crash.
Not a head of state.
Neither is Raisi. Is it a diplomatic thing that you hope will be reciprocated? Like, just talk us through.
It has nothing to do with hopes of anything that will transpire.
State Department today talking about the death of Iran's president in a helicopter crash. Does it throw the Middle East into even more uncertainty tonight? Joining us now to talk about that and other things, Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Brett. Good to be on.
What about the death? We don't know all the circumstances of the helicopter crash, but we do know that the president, the foreign minister, and other officials died. You heard the State Department offer condolences and some of the questioning about that. Does it change the Middle East tonight?
No, Brett, I really don't think it does. In Iran, they don't have hardliners and moderates. They have hardliners and harder liners. The president of Iran was one of those harder liners, but ultimately decisions in Iran are made by the supreme leader. I think it's disappointing to hear the Biden administration expressing condolences for a man who's known as the butcher of Tehran, for the thousands of his own people that he killed, still leading a regime that chants death to America. I certainly don't have condolences or sympathy to extend to the Ayatollahs in Iran. And for that matter, the people of Iran are probably pretty pleased that the butcher of Tehran is no longer there to torment them. But more broadly, I don't think it'll have any kind of significant impact across the region or on our interests, because again, the supreme leader of Iran is the one who calls the shots there. It's the ones that Joe Biden has been consistently trying to curry favor with and appease, whereas Donald Trump stood up to him for 4 years.
On the same day, the International Criminal Court, the ICC prosecutor, is seeking arrest warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu and Hamas leaders. Obviously, Iran supports Hamas. The Wall Street Journal, allegations against the Israeli leaders focus largely on what he said were decisions and actions taken by the Israeli government and military that have led to this humanitarian crisis inside Gaza. The president came out against that. The Israelis, even the Palestinians, have come out and said this is wrong. You have your own piece of legislation about the ICC.
Yeah, I do. It's an outrageous moral equivalence, which the president acknowledged, that tells you how far to the left the International Criminal Court has gone. I was disappointed that President Biden didn't also refute the underlying claims that Israel, for instance, has intentionally targeted civilians for killing or tried to starve children. The civilian suffering happening in Gaza, which is real, is happening solely because Hamas is using those civilians as human shields or props for international political strategies. I do have legislation that would impose sanctions on this rogue prosecutor and those in his office who have not just targeted Prime Minister Netanyahu now, but also in the past have targeted American soldiers as well. We're working with the Republican leadership in the House to try to pass that bill promptly and hopefully force Chuck Schumer's hand to bring it up in the Senate, because he also condemned the International Criminal Court today. But I would just say the only reason we have to pursue this legislation is that Joe Biden reversed Donald Trump's decision to sanction this very office and this very court in the past. This is a rogue court that Congress has previously given the president power to stand up to. Joe Biden hasn't used that power. Donald Trump did.
You've been a proponent of Ukraine standing up to Russia, trying to push them out of there. Ukraine, this is the Hill, ups pressure on the U.S. to allow strikes in Russia, saying this is insane. Here's some sound bites on that.
The UN rules, the international law, and every other rules that exist in this country, which Russia violated, by the way, give us a clear right to defend ourselves by striking an aggressor.
It is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
I mean, that's a big turn to start going after bases inside Russia. And for the people who are concerned about World War III, et cetera, you're a supporter of the supplemental that gave money to Ukraine. Where are you on this issue?
Well, I think Ukraine has to be able to target weapons depots and fuel depots and staging grounds for Russia. Otherwise, Russia is going to have free reign. It can't be the case that Russia gets to shoot anywhere it wants in Ukraine, and Ukraine can't target Russian troops and fuel and ammo depots just a kilometer or two over its border. That's one reason why you've seen Russian gains on the border regions, because President Biden has been putting pressure on Ukraine from the very beginning, not to try to win this war, but rather merely to try to not lose it only at the last second. It's very different from what Joe Biden did. If you remember, going back to Barack Obama, the first time Russia invaded Ukraine. All we sent to Ukraine was blankets and meals ready to eat. President Trump reversed that decision. He provided them with the very weapons that helped them fend off Russia in the Battle of Kyiv in 2022. Now, again, Joe Biden allowed Vladimir Putin to invade Russia, and he's consistently been pussyfooting around for 2 years, not providing Ukraine the weapons they need and the volumes they need to defend their own territory.
You served in the U.S. military. You've been a leader in the Senate on intelligence and military. There are some people who look at the Republican Party and say it's split now, and that there is a more America first, maybe more, critics say, isolationist view in some Republicans' minds about where policy should be. Can you be both? A Trump administration, President Trump supporter, and still be aggressive on foreign policy overseas?
Well, I think there's no question, because President Trump, like President Reagan, subscribed to a philosophy of peace through strength. We want peace, security, and stability around the world. We do not want war. But to make sure we have that peace and stability, we have to be prepared for, we have to be strong. Take the case of Ukraine again. It seems that Vladimir Putin only invades Ukraine when Democrats are president, Barack Obama and Joe Biden. He did not do that when Donald Trump was president. Look in the Middle East. Again, we had peace, stability, and security with literal peace agreements between Israel and some of its Arab neighbors under President Trump. Under Barack Obama and Joe Biden, we've had war raging throughout the regions. What we want is a peaceful, stable world that protects America's interests. The way to achieve that, though, is through strong, confident American leadership.
And use Afghanistan as an example.
Yes, exactly.
All right, up next, we're going to talk to Senator Cotton about the presidential race. President Biden raising the heat this weekend in a big speech down south.
The black men are being killed in the street. What is democracy? The trail of broken promises still leave black communities behind. Donald Trump has said if he loses again in November, there will be, quote, bloodshed. What in God's name are we talking about here? Trump isn't running to lead America. He's running for revenge.
President Biden down south, and this weekend, over the weekend, we're back with Senator Tom Cotton. What do you make of some of the things that the president has been saying about the former president and how he characterizes this race?
Yeah, well, Joe Biden is a weak and failed president. That's why he's trailing in almost every poll, and that's why he's now starting to throw Hail Marys before we even reach Memorial Day in this campaign. He knows that under his watch, we've had runaway inflation. Families can't afford groceries or gas. Our border is totally open. It's a chaotic disaster with more than 10 million illegal aliens in our country. And Uncle Sam has a kick me sign on his back all around the world. So he's resorting to lies and distortions against President Trump. But I don't think the American people are going to fall for that, because they remember that with Donald Trump, we had stable prices with rising wages and good jobs, and we had a secure border, and we had America respected around the world. That's the choice they have this fall.
But clearly they're going to use January 6th and the threat to democracy as a big part of this campaign. Back January 6th, you put out a statement saying no quarter for insurrectionists. Those who attack the Capitol today should face the full extent of federal law. It's past time for the president to accept the results of the election, quit misleading the American people, and repudiate mob violence. You stand by that statement? Has it changed despite what you hear from former President Trump?
Well, you certainly should have legal consequences for all those who entered the Capitol and damaged property, or certainly hurt law enforcement officers. I do agree with the president, though, that there are many irregularities. There was a lot of unfairness in the 2020 election. Now, not necessarily that it's Congress's role to reject electors once they
But you
get sent
accept
to
the results of the 2020 election?
Yeah, you can accept the results and say that Congress doesn't have the constitutional role to reject electors that have been certified in the states, still having concerns about the unfairness and the irregularities that many of those Democratic states did in changing election laws and election practices leading up to the 2020 election. But if you really want to talk about a threat to democracy, you just have to look at what's happening in New York City, where the Democrats have weaponized the legal system against their chief opponent. This is something you would expect to expect from a country like Pakistan or Georgia, not here in the United States.
Do you think it's advantageous at all for the campaign, the Trump campaign, to be talking about 2020?
Well, if you listen to what Donald Trump is saying on the campaign trail, it's mostly about what's happened since 2020. It's about we've had the runaway inflation we've had. It's about a wide open border, about the crime that this country faces now, or the threats that we face from abroad that this weak and failed president, Joe Biden, has brought upon our country. That's the choice the American people are going to have in 2024.
But just to be clear, you say Joe Biden's the legitimately elected president.
You know that Joe Biden's the president, not just because he lives in the White House, but only Joe Biden could screw things up as badly as they are now.
Speaking of immigration, you have another vote on the same bill that never got past the process. This is the Senate negotiated bill, and you voted against that process the first time around. It's going to come up again. Tammy Baldwin, Democrat from Wisconsin, says this is needed to restore order. Republicans negotiated a bill with Democrats. She says they only backed off when Donald Trump instructed them to because he wanted an issue to run on and didn't want it to be fixed, and that's irresponsible. That is the line on immigration that Democrats will take, and they're going to vote on this again Thursday.
Well, the reason Chuck Schumer wants to have another failed vote on this bill, which is so far short of getting 60 votes to pass, it doesn't even have 50 votes because some of his own Democrats oppose it, is because the border is a key issue in this election. And it's a key issue because Joe Biden opened our border. He promised in the 2020 campaign he would open the border to all comers. We shouldn't be surprised that we have more than 10 million illegal aliens who have crossed the border. By contrast, Donald Trump had the border secure and closed by the time of the election in 2020. And again, that's the choice the American people are going to face. A weak, failed president's disastrous policy on the borders, or President Trump's strong policies to protect our borders and ensure only people entering the country have a legal right to be here.
We're in a process now where the former president's going to decide about a VP pick. We have Candidate Casino on here. Hugh Hewitt is always putting chips on you for VP. He had a quote on his radio show in which he said that you would be best positioned. Have you thought about that? Have they reached out to you? Where is that status?
No, the president and the campaign has not reached out to me. I suspect only Donald Trump knows who's really on his short list. When we do talk, we talk about what it's going to take to win this election in November, to elect President Trump to another term in the White House and elect a Republican Congress so we can begin to repair the damage that Joe Biden's presidency has inflicted on this country.
Well, Senator Cotton, we appreciate your time, and we'll follow it all.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks.